Hi there. Sorry, I had tried to sign in on a different link and it wasn't really working. I was pulling my hair out. I was trying to get in here and I was like, why isn't this working? But I found the link that worked.
Oh, Brenda, are you on the potato phone tonight?
I don't know. Can you hear me well right now? That's my computer.
Well enough, yes.
Okay.
You might have to get a little closer, but you're coming through well enough to hear.
Okay, cool. I don't know. I'm looking around for that call-in thing. It's still switch to phone audio. I'm still going to switch to phone audio. See how it's better. Call me, but I'm going to use my personal phone, not my work phone.
I'm just going to make sure my share screen feature is going to work real quick. So just bear with me for a minute, guys. Can you guys see that?
I can see it.
Awesome. Okay. I'll stop sharing for now, but since Maria's trusted me to handle the presentation and everything tonight, I was like, I better be able to do this. Got to make Maria proud.
How is my audio now?
Oh, good.
Better? See, that's my phone. Yeah. Oh, well. Nope. Don't do that. Just mute.
So remind me of your position with the city, Janet.
I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works. I'm over operations and maintenance, so over streets, fleet, building services, facilities, and traffic operations.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, it's all my passion. I will have to say this is the first time I've ever done fleet stuff before, but it's natural to me because we have a lot of mechanics in my family, and so it came a lot easier than I thought it would be, just because I kind of know enough around a car that those guys, when I walk in there, they don't look at me like I'm a complete fool. So it worked out well.
So did your phone ring off the hook when we got a foot of snow overnight?
My phone typically does not, because our streets crew are phenomenal. And so we've been pretty lucky. I get an email or a text every once in a while when they're like, what do you think about this? But for the most part, our streets crew handles it. Did you know that our storm that we got, not last week, but the week before, was the largest storm we had in 5 years? It was 16.3 inches.
I kind of found that out the hard way when I went outside with the snow shovel. It was light though, a lot of powder, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, no, I was amazed when I went through and they started pulling the numbers. I was like, I know there was a lot. You can see that there's a lot, but when you put the number with it, you're like, yeah, that was more than the average storm for sure.
For one, I'm hoping for one more before the end of the season.
I am too. I think it's good to get some nice wet storms so we can have nice green grass in the summer. That's at least my belief on the system. Oh, and it looks like Brittany's here.
Hi.
Okay, Brittany, you good if I make you the host?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Do you like the confidence?
I do. I believe in you.
I knew it.
We all believe in you, Brittany. You're going to do awesome. This is her first meeting that she's clerked before. I told her this was the best you could do it with.
Thank you for all your help getting me ready, Nancy.
Oh, of course. I'm going to leave the meeting. I have my cell phone. If you need me, just email me.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. And yep, we're recording, so you're good. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Okay, before we get crazy, I'm gonna run away really quick and get some water and be right back.
Okay, Brittany. We have a little while till we get a quorum anyway, so.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. Brittany, it looks like you have 3 folks within the attendees that could get moved over to the panelists when you
Okay.
get a chance.
I forgot how to do that. Do I just drag and drop? You're muted.
I think you click on them and you can add them, but I'm not the host, so it won't let me do it.
Okay, here, I'm gonna press allow to talk and then more, oh, promote to panelist. And you said
There you
all
go.
of these people can be?
Huh?
Everyone can go?
I think Felicia, Jeff, and I'm gonna Marcy and Kawanabe, council member or committee member Kawanabe. And I probably butchered his name. So sorry.
Okay. And Susan should stay?
I think Susan stays under attendees.
Okay, and how about Carson Green?
And Carson Green comes over.
Comes over to us, okay.
Yep. Did I get that correct, Chair Ward? Okay.
We have 7 members, which is a quorum. So I believe we can begin this meeting. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
All right. This is a meeting of the Organized Residential Waste and Recycling Collection Citizens Committee. It is Monday, no, yes, Monday, March 8th is the date. The time is 6:03 p.m. I'm Stephen Ward, Chair, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
you guys are all chair people, is that correct? Chairperson Brenda?
Brenda's just a
No,
committee.
I'm a member.
Oh, you're a
I'm
member, okay.
Here.
Okay. And we know Chairperson Ward is here. I don't know what to call these people. Is it Chairperson Marcy or Chairperson Brown?
No, I'm just a
Committee
member.
Everyone's a committee
Okay.
member except for Carson Green is the vice chair and I'm the chair. So if that helps,
Okay.
you just
I'm sorry, I
refer to those
didn't
as
mean
committee
to
members.
promote everyone else.
No, that's fine.
That's okay.
Chairperson Ward, okay. Janet is here. Committee member Labe
Here.
here. Committee member Frazier.
Here.
Committee member Kawanabe.
It's Kawanabe, and I'm here. Thank you. Yeah.
Kawanabe, gotcha. Okay, I think that was everyone. Everybody's moving around. Is there anyone that I missed?
I haven't said present. I'm here as well.
Who is that?
Vice Chair Green.
Hi, Vice Chair Green, thank you.
Thank you.
So that would be 7 members in attendance.
Correct.
All right, so that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is recognition of public comment. Just a couple of notes before we begin public comment. We do ask you to limit your comment to 3 minutes. The clerk will keep time and give you a warning at 1 minute. Before we begin public comment, I just want to review the goals and status of the current committee for clarity. This committee stands to explore the option of a competitively bid single hauler trash provider. We are dedicated to currently producing a request for proposals and reviewing those proposals when they come back to make recommendations to council. We've already had one set of proposals that have come in, and those have been rejected, and we are currently working on a new RFP in order to find something that benefits everyone and is acceptable to the haulers. With that, if you are here from the committee, from the community rather, and you would like to give public comment, please raise your hand now. I do see one attendee present, but the hand is not raised. Member Brown, go ahead.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, what you just put up on the screen, Chair Ward, it says that nothing has been defined yet. Is that correct?
That is
Or not?
correct. Nothing
Okay,
has been decided or final yet. We've not made a decision on a trash hauler to be adopted by the city. We've not made a decision on whether or not a trash hauler would be adopted by the city. The only thing we've done is work through certain recommendations, which we will review in total at a subsequent meeting in order to prepare the proposal, the request for proposals that will go out.
so could I ask you one more question, please?
Certainly.
So does that mean that we have not finalized whether people can opt in or out, or if recycling is mandatory or not? Has that been finalized?
We have taken some votes on certain matters, as you may recall.
Yes.
But I believe the intent going forward, Member Brown, is to review those as a whole. And if adjustments need to be made at that time, I think the committee has a right to reconsider decisions that have been made up to that point.
Okay, thank you for answering. I appreciate it.
So I don't see anyone here for public comment, so we will go to
Chair Ward, are you sure that she can raise her hand? Just in case, I don't know. Do we know if whoever the attendee is trying to speak?
Attendee Susan, I've unmuted you. Do you have any questions? You are on mute. I've unmuted you so everyone can hear you, but your microphone is muted if you're attempting to talk.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I
Sorry,
think
Chair
we
Ward, just
can
wanted to
move
make
on.
sure she had a chance if it was possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll also note for the record that the committee did receive written comment, and that has been distributed to the committee members and is included in the public packet on the city's website. And with that, I will hand the floor over to Janet. Janet, if you would please introduce yourself to the committee and go ahead with your presentation.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Helps to unmute. Janet Lundquist for Public Works. I'm the Deputy Director over Operations and Maintenance. I'm filling in this evening for Maria DeAndre, our beloved director. And I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the policy items that you guys have been working on as a group this evening. So the couple items we'll go ahead and discuss together is the administrative fee, the use of collected penalties, and then the Citizen Assistant Program, or CAP. So is the screen wide enough? Do you need me to blow this up a little bit for you guys to see, or can you read it okay? I'll just look for thumb marks if it's good. Okay.
I'm okay.
Okay, so to begin with, we've identified 2 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee to actually maintain or operate the garbage program. These values that you see here do include the salary, benefit, and taxes. And then where we go up and determine the administrative fee, you'll see the salaries, and it's broken down in that annual cost. Then also broken down over a rate per household, and then the number of households that we have within the city. We have a vehicle cost for a code enforcement person who would be driving around the city and making sure that everything's on the up and up with the garbage program. So you'll see those costs also broken down by a rate per household. And then we also have an amount for mailers, which are still very popular in the city of Inglewood, just passing information from the city to our citizens. And you'll see that yearly cost and then the rate per household. This breaks down to about $24.55 per household, or $2.05 per household per month. And so the big question that we have right now for you guys, knowing this administrative fee, is if the administrative fee should be charged to all households, even if they opt out for service, because they do get the benefit of the code enforcement services that are applied through the city, and then also any informational mailers that go out. Maria has a note here about the city of Golden and her contact with them. They had said that when they started their service, they originally, back in 2010, they had 3% of households opt out, but as time has gone, less and less households have opted out of the services, and now it's at 1.5%. And with that, I'll go ahead and pause to get feedback from the committee.
Thank you. Kanji, you're first.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just wondering if we're going to consider the increase in this fees in parallel with the increase of payments for the service.
This is this service fee is part of the overall service, so I think they're going to have a service fee plus this $2.05, if that answers your question.
Now, let me clarify. So we're seeing an increase in the payments that we're going to make year over year, considering inflation. And so I'm wondering, as we go on, right? So would this position be capped? Are we going to say that this person is never going to earn any more than what we've allocated currently, or do we see any increase in these fees year over year?
Oh, I'm not sure if that has been determined yet. So I'm not sure that we would say that this amount is a capped as we move forward. I think this is the initial cost for these services for this initial year and probably for a period after that. But that's something I can identify for an answer at a future meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Carson.
I'm curious about what the job responsibilities are for these. Like it's hard for me to understand how we need 2 full-time people and a part-time person if the bulk of what's going to be provided is being provided by, you know, whatever hauler we end up, you know, if we go forward with this, if this were to happen, you know, the hauler is, my understanding, the hauler is supposed to be responsible for dealing with customer requests, complaints. I understand the plan is to have the billing go on the water bill, and I'm sure that there's already people involved in managing that bill for the city. I'm real curious what all actually is involved in the job responsibilities for a program coordinator and billing specialist, administrative assistant full-time. Is that broken down anywhere?
I'm not sure if there is a job description associated with the positions, but I will let you know that this modeling of the need for the employees is set up to mirror what we do for our current utility service, whether that's our water service that we have, water sewer service that we have through the city. So looking at their job functions that they have for both for that group, for the utilities group, that's helped define what we would need for the garbage and recycling person as far as managing the billing from the city side, and then also the code enforcement piece to make sure that that's maintained. As far as a specific job description or job duties that would apply to each one, I don't have that information available tonight, but can make a request for it.
Yeah, I mean, well, with water and wastewater and sewage, the city provides those services entirely, right? We're not outsourcing the providing of those services, right?
No, but the staffing that is available through the utilities department versus what they do for billing or the actual administration of the system are very similar to what our setup will be in this situation.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to how the justification of this much employment on the city side for something we're primarily outsourcing. I'd like to see that breakdown.
Thanks, Carson. Jeff, you're next.
Thank you, Deputy Director Lundquist. Yeah, I had some questions about these 2 positions as well. And I think you may have said this, I just wanted to make sure I caught it correctly. It looked like, if I wrote this down right, there would be an allocation of $97,000 for a program coordinator and $78,000 for a billing administrator. Does that number, I think you said, does that include benefits? So it's not like just straight salary?
That's correct. So that includes their salary, benefit, and taxes that the city pays. So that is not the salary amount.
Got it. I'm just trying to see if I can discern from this chart rather than ask you something that's redundant on it here, but you don't have any idea how much those benefit costs are per year. And at my company, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's one of the more expensive amounts. I do not have that information tonight, but I can ask for that information to be at a future meeting.
Thanks.
My understanding, as someone who occasionally plays in the city's budget sandbox, is about a third, roughly.
That sounds about right from my experience as well. Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on Vice Chair Green's comment, I do think, particularly on the program coordinator position, I'm curious if there's a draft job description for that position and what the perceived job duties for that position would be, and if those job duties would be 100% specifically limited to this program. I fully understand, we need at least one person to help facilitate this program, particularly on the billing side, given that bills would come from the city. But I am just a little bit curious about what the program coordinator position in particular. Certainly I understand there'd be education, there'd be a number of other ongoing, coordinations, but I wonder if you might be able to elaborate a little bit on that now, or if in the future we might be able to see what, or maybe some comparisons from other cities that have done this and may have similar positions, what their job descriptions look like. I don't know if it's possible to get those.
I think we could probably look into bringing some sample job descriptions, whether they're similar to the ones that we're seeing in our utilities group, to kind of give a side-by-side comparison of the expectations for those roles. I've made a note here that we definitely want to bring that to a future meeting. I know our next meeting together is going to be the Q&A with the various haulers, so it may need to be something that we address at your following meeting to bring that information for your review.
Thank you.
Marcy.
Thank you. I guess most of my questions have been already asked, but you had said, I'm sorry, Ms. Lundquist, I do not know your title.
Deputy Director.
Okay, so Deputy Director Lundquist. I find that this is quite a bit of money for 2.5 positions myself, but people have, prior to me speaking, have asked for a little bit more in depth about what their duties will be. So I do appreciate that. And I think someone had asked, what about pay raises? I mean, I would expect that there would be pay raises in the future. I would expect that these employees would expect raises. So where would the money come from those raises? Would it come from the administrative fee? And I just have one more statement to make, is that I don't believe that people who want to opt out should pay the administrative fee, since they're already paying a fee to their local trash company. So thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry, one more thing. I apologize. There was a graphic that you had on the screen about Golden. If you could, or I would like to see other cities, what they're paying other than Golden. I mean, I would like maybe a few other comparisons, if that's possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that information would be helpful as well. We had Sheridan, I know a similar program in Commerce City because Director DeAndre has made reference to it, and now Golden.
Lafayette was one too.
Yeah.
Loveland.
So there's certainly plenty to sample out there.
Can do. I'll go ahead and put the notes for that in there. So we definitely want a breakdown of the salary versus the benefits. We also want a description of the job descriptions or duties and how that compares to what we see in utilities, but then also comparison of other municipalities and their staffing for it. Do I have that correct?
That is what I heard.
Okay.
I don't see any other hands raised, so I'll take this opportunity to make some comments myself. I appreciate you bringing up, Carson, that, perhaps utilities might not be the best comparison, considering that a large portion of what's being done here is outsourced. I think that's really useful information. So the question on the board right now is, does the administrative fee get charged to all households, including opt-out households? And I wonder if we might be needing some more information to make that decision, or if this is a philosophical decision that we can decide on now. Carson, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I've been outspoken on saying that I think charging opt-out fee is a bad idea all along, partly because I think it is going to raise, it's going to, should we find a deal that outside of opt-out or not is a good deal for citizens, meaning it's equivalent or better service, preferably better because it's going to be alley and street, and equivalent or better cost, then the charging an opt-out fee is, it's just giving a lot of people something to be upset about and argue about, when ultimately, if we can find a deal that's going to have that level of service and that level of cost, ultimately they're going to not opt out. Because, and this example that's been provided in here of the city of Golden, where it started out with a larger opt out and then it's dropped in half over time. The reality is, if there's a single hauler that's providing the service for most of the city, other options are gonna go away because it's not going to be cost effective for anybody else to provide service if it's a house here, a house there. So I don't see why we even consider charging an opt-out, because it's just going to automatically happen. And by charging the opt-out, we're just giving fuel to the fire of people who are going to see that as something to fight about.
Thank you. Jeff, I think you're next.
Yeah, I guess is part of this administrative fee us discussing opt-out issues in general, because there are some additional concerns there based on what we've previously discussed and talked about, given Colorado state law, as I understand it. And I think the woman from EcoCycle may have touched on this when she gave a comment at the last meeting, but I guess so. Kind of a point of order question: are we discussing opt-out generally right now, or just as applied to the administrative fee? Because they all these issues kind of intertwine.
So I would say the question on the table is as it is on the slide right now.
Okay. Well, on that question, because we had previously discussed requiring households to participate in the program, that, as I understand it, is not permissible under Colorado law, based on the same statute we were discussing at the last meeting. I don't have the exact site in front of me, but I can provide it. So given that, that would mean that folks would have the ability to opt out at the beginning of this program, meaning not give it a chance at all because, you know, change is scary, or they like their current provider, or whatever it may be. I know many of the similarly situated cities and towns charge some sort of fee, whether it's an administrative fee or not. I think it was Loveland who charges like half of what the smallest bin would cost. And the reason for that is because haulers themselves want some sort of guarantee when they're putting, you know, maybe purchasing trucks, maybe putting a huge capital investment together to provide the citizens of Englewood with what I certainly hope is a very good deal.
Excuse me, you have 1 minute remaining.
He's good. He's got the floor. He's one of the members, so just let him go.
That's cool. People should do that to me more often. Yeah, so I guess my thinking on this is we need to figure out what we want to do with opt-out generally. I do think haulers need some, certainty in providing these bids of what their income and is going to look like in order to give us the lowest possible rates. And I do think the admin fee to help facilitate the program is a reasonable way to approach that. So I'm open to discussion on this, but my thoughts, if we're allowing people to opt out off the bat, would be that an admin, or not necessarily an admin, or maybe some other type of fee based on like the smallest in half of that or something like that could be a reasonable approach here. Because we do want, if we go this way and the bid's good and council decides to do it, we do want folks participating in the program. Otherwise, it completely defeats the purpose of taking more trucks off the road and reducing emissions and the impact on the alleys from 3 or 4 or whatever it may be trucks circling every time. So anyways, that's my ramble on administrative fees, but I think it's something we do need to look at closely and how we want to approach opt-outs.
All right, Felicia.
I agree with what Jeff was saying, and my thinking is similar in that this is a program that, whether we like it or not, will require some investment and money up front. And so I feel like an administrative fee for the opt-out hopefully incentivizes people to participate, and the more people participating, kind of the better deal we're able to get for kind of the greater community. I guess I feel like the administrative fee shouldn't be overwhelmingly expensive, but just with what we're talking about being something small, I think makes a lot of sense. And hopefully, like I said, would kind of incentivize more people to participate in the program, which would hopefully allow for just, I guess, the program to reach its full capacity.
Thank you. Kanji, you're next.
Yeah, just want to echo support here with Jeff and Felicia as well. I think just playing devil's advocate, if we didn't have something to stave off folks from jumping off board, who's to say that a competitor wouldn't come in, undercut the bid for a year, destroy the system, right, and then raise rates through the roof. So I think we've seen that in small mom and pop shops throughout the country. So I just want to play devil's advocate here and then provide my support to the opt-out fee as well.
Marcy. Marcy, you have the floor.
Sorry. I'm kind of going at this question at maybe a different angle than others are. But if we have such a great deal on the table, why would you not give that? Why would you not give people a choice to make whether they want to go with their own haulers or if they want to opt out of this program? I mean, if we can get that single payment, if we can get that so low, why would you make people want to opt in when they don't want to? And also my feeling is, Member Frazier said this, I didn't know this was going before council. I didn't know we had decided yet this was going before council. I mean, have we decided that?
Yes, any decision we make gets reviewed by council.
Right, it's reviewed by council, but do we not have a right to think about whether it's decided by council or decided by ballot?
That's council's decision, not ours. We can make any recommendation we want to council that falls within the scope of this project, including that they should send it to the ballot, but our job is to report to council.
Okay, but we could make a recommendation that it go to ballot. Is that right, Chair Ward?
Yes.
Okay,
as long as our recommendation would be within the scope of the project that we have, then we could do that for sure.
okay, thank you.
Jane, you're next.
Yeah, I just want to echo, I guess, the sentiments of Jeff and Alicia and of Kanji. I think that we need the opt-out fee at least for the first contract period to see how it goes, because I really do think that part of what is important about this project is to get everybody on board at first, get it established, get it figured out, and figure out that hopefully we are getting the best possible deal, even with the administrative fee. And that way we can show that this is an excellent program that people will want to stay into. And then maybe over time we talk about phasing out the opt-out fee or something like that. But I think it's an integral part of the whole thing. Sorry if I can't remember, but did we even decide whether there was a delay period between opt-out and start of the contract or anything like that? But I still think at least we need that administrative fee to kind of be an incentive to get people to give it a try.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I think Member Borman brings up a good point in that perhaps, an admin opt-out fee may be something that could only apply like in the first year of the program or the first year or two. And just to clarify Member Brown's comments earlier, Marcy, I wasn't saying that, council decides this. Council makes any decision on whether this moves forward at all. Whether that goes to a vote of the citizens or council decides it is also up to council, or folks could petition to put this on the ballot if it moved forward. I think all of that is premature because we haven't seen the numbers yet. So we don't even know if we're recommending even moving forward with this to council yet. So I just we keep kind of going through the same cycle of confusion about where we are in the process and what our authority is. And yes, we will review the RFP as a committee, make recommendations. Those recommendations may be to move forward with a program if we as a committee feel the numbers look good and it could be a good deal for Englewood. But I wasn't saying by talking about council that, it doesn't go to a vote of the people. I do think there are issues with that as far as flexibility and adjusting down the road that could be problematic, but that's not the conversation at this time. But with that, I think I would probably like to make a motion. And my motion would be that the admin fee be charged to those who do opt out of the program for the first year of the program.
All right. I do see Marcy has her hand raised. So I'm gonna ask Jeff if you don't mind holding that motion until we can clear the floor.
No problem.
Marcy, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank Member Frazier for clarifying. That's it. Thank you.
Anything?
And if you'll allow me one comment before before we call for seconds on your motions, Jeff. I'm pretty torn on the subject. Generally, philosophically speaking, I do have some problem with a government agency coming along and telling people that they are going to be charged for a service whether they want it or not. And so the opt-out fee does cause me a little bit of heartburn, frankly. So I'm probably going to be a no vote on this administrative fee, but first we need a second. So Jeff, if you would not mind restating your motion, and then we will call for a second.
Sure thing. And for ability for haulers to have some consistency to hopefully propose the best proposal out there, my motion would be to charge the administrative opt-out fee to all Englewood citizens who opt out of service for the first year of any potential program to be evaluated at the end of that year.
I'll second that. This is Kanji.
All right, moved by Jeff Frazier, seconded by Kanji. Carson, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just to clarify, when you say evaluate at the end of the year, so you're saying that, so this motion is that the administrative fee would be charged as an opt-out fee to anyone who opts out, but not just for the first year, maybe for ongoing?
No. Oh, sorry. If I can jump in here to clarify.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
No, so my motion would be that the admin fee would only apply for the first year. Now, to be evaluated at the end of that year, it could be extended. I think if we were in that position, it would probably have to be a vote of council, because I don't think this is going to be a standing committee. I don't know that anybody here wants that to happen. But my motion, in the text of the motion, is for the admin fee to apply for the first year of any potential program. Now, if council did nothing, I would interpret my motion for the admin fee for those opt-outs to lapse and not be in effect after 1 year. But for the purpose of incentivizing folks to give the program a shot, I do think it's important to have some sort of incentive, and for the haulers to have, at least some idea of what they're looking at financially based on this fee, multiplying it by probably an average of opt-outs through similarly situated cities. So no, I hope, did that clarify your question, member Vice Chair?
Yeah, I mean, I there's still ambiguity in it, because you're kind of saying it would be evaluated and potentially extended. And I mean, I could almost vote for yes for this if it was explicitly only for the first year, as opposed to maybe it keeps going. But anyway.
All right, Brenda, your hand is raised.
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, I'm just going to speak up to saying I'm for the opt-out fee. And the reason why is because this will make the contract more attractive for competitors to deliver pricing because of the economy of scale. So cost advantages happen when a company has a larger scale of production and therefore it becomes more efficient, and thereby resulting in a decreased cost per unit. So they're likely to give us a cheaper cost if they know that there is, and it's not meant to be a punishment for opting out, it's meant to be an incentive. So again, kind of like we were talking last week with bringing in multi-unit people, the more we have in this, the better pricing we're probably going to see. And that's all I have on lowering my hand. We should probably vote.
And just to clarify, no portion of the proposed administrative fee goes to the hauler. This is purely a city fee.
Oh, well, I know that, and that's okay. It's because they're still going to pick up that. They know that they are more likely to pick up 9,000 units of trash versus 5.
Got it. Thanks.
See what I'm
All right.
saying?
So we have a motion on the floor, Jeff. If I may restate the motion, it is to charge the administrative fee to all eligible households in the first year, subject to reevaluation thereafter.
Correct.
And that was moved by member Frazier and seconded by Kanji. And if the clerk would please call the roll.
I have one quick question. Does Deputy Director Lundquist get a vote?
No.
No.
Okay, I didn't know if I was supposed to call on her. Thank you. Committee member Hubka.
Yes.
Okay. Committee member Borman.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Green.
No.
Committee member Labe.
Yes.
And Chairman Ward.
No.
Okay, I believe that was everyone. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah, you missed me.
Oh,
Me too.
sorry, Marcy.
Okay, my vote is no.
No, thank you.
And Kanji, I believe, also got passed.
He seconded it, didn't he? Or do I still have to ask?
He still needs to vote,
Oh, I'm sorry.
as does Jeff if he has not.
Okay. Committee member Kawanabe.
Yes.
Yes. And committee member Frazier.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The motion passes.
Thank you. All right. I believe we are ready for the next slide, unless there's any other motions or anything to add.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward. This next section here that we're going to discuss is penalties. You guys have had some previous motions and conversation about this. So I'm just going to kind of just give a quick reminder of the different types of penalties and then give you a recap of your previous motions. And then we have a couple of questions for you. The first penalty or action that we would have is commencement of collection prior to 7 a.m. or continuous after 6 p.m., except for written permission, failure to collect spilled materials from the contractor's vehicles or equipment, missed pickups, resolution of customer issues or failure to respond to customers in a timely manner, leaking fluids from contractor vehicles or equipment, or failure to maintain vehicles in accordance with the requirements of the RFP. And then collection from households on any other day than their predetermined route, excluding weather or holiday schedules. Collection of recycled materials as garbage, misrepresentation by contractor in records or reporting, and then finally, failure to provide required report, billing data, and other information by the dates outlined by the RFP. So in the past, the committee has made motions on February 8th, 2021 to keep the penalties as presented, except for the response for the reduction to the 1 business day. And then also provide 1 month credit to any household where the hauler received a penalty for a missed pickup or failure to resolve a customer issue. Also, the remainder of the penalties should be reassigned or allocated 2/3 to the customer assistant program and 1/3 to the education program that will be a part of the overall program. I think the big question that we have for you guys this evening is, are there any other elements related to the penalties that the committee would like to see this evening?
Carson.
Thank you. One thing I just noticed on the key penalties as presented, except the response was reduced to 1 business day. That's not yet reflected in your grid. It still says 2 business days. I'm just pointing that out. You guys may have planned to already change that. But I also wanted to, I brought this up in our last meeting It was related to one of the documents that member Frazier gave us, and what I believe was included in the packet, if not just distributed to all of us, but it has state recommendations for municipalities. And one of those, I mean, there's several recommendations in there that I pointed out and asked Director DeAndrea about, especially in regard to the data reporting. I don't know, did she give you any information to bring to us in regard to the state recommended data reporting or any of the other municipal recommendations in regard to looking at waste and recycling?
She has not updated the information based off of the previous request. I think at this point she wanted to get through this whole piece and get the direction that we have here and then cycle back to address those issues.
Okay,
with the
well, I
state
feel like
regulation.
in the penalties, it should be reflected because, so I'm looking at the state recommendations for municipalities, municipal recommendations, number 5. Collect data. Municipalities and counties need consistent data on how much of the local waste stream is recycled, composted, and landfilled. Yet access to data is very limited. Of the 140 plus cities and towns we contacted, less than 40 were able to report a recycling rate. We recommend cities use the free data tools available through the municipal measurement program. Using this national platform helps to ensure that recycling data is reported consistently between communities and across the US. So, and then it goes into further details on the data collection. So I'd like to have the description of the penalties around the data, the reporting, include compliance with that MMP standard that the state is recommending that cities utilize. And there's no reason for us to not require any hauler to participate in that level of detail, if not better.
Okay, I made that note here. I'll go ahead and we'll bring that back and hopefully bring that topic back for final resolution. Again, probably not at your next meeting, but the following meeting when you guys will have a more robust discussion.
Okay, thank you. And we might even, I mean, that's probably worth asking the haulers about when we talk to them too, the data reporting details.
So I just want to make sure I understand your request, Carson. You're saying the haulers would be required to collect data regarding the disposal of the materials they collect?
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm going by is this state recommendation to municipalities, and it references a specific municipal measurement program set of tools and standards for tracking the streams of waste, recycling. You know, whether our program includes compost or not would probably determine if compost was included in that reporting. But it's and I don't know the details of what this is, but it's a referenced program and set of tools and details that if we're requiring that the hauler provide, you know, that they could get penalties for inaccurate reporting or other data that they're supposed to provide us, I'm saying that I think that the description of what they're required to do should be at least up to whatever these state recommended standards are.
Okay, that was the part that I missed. So it's just fleshing out that particular penalty, the $500 penalty that's listed there.
Or the $5,000 one, depending.
Gotcha. Got it. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's really just, and just correct me if I'm wrong, and sorry for speaking out of turn, just really adding the language within these 2 vacant spots here. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I just think that we, in the process of doing this, we should ensure that they're not just gonna, you know, because without specifying what the reporting details are, they could get away with anything. And since the state has a recommended set of tools and standards, let's ensure that we put those details in so that what you know qualifies as a report that doesn't generate a penalty is clear.
Got it. Got it. That makes that crystal clear. I did want to honor one of Member Brinker's suggestions. She was not able to join us tonight, but she did email ahead of the meeting. And she wondered whether it would be, whether we made the correct decision in assigning the ratio of penalties, or if it would be better to leave that open to a calculation done by staff or as needed. So I wanted to bring that suggestion up. If anybody would like to bring that forward, we can do that for sure.
That right there, the remainder of the penalty would be assigned 2/3 to the customer and 1/3 to education. I thought we fleshed all that out. I'm good.
We did talk about it. I think she was somewhat loosely requesting reconsideration, but since she's not here to advocate for that tonight, you may hear from her on that in subsequent meetings. Carson?
Just to clarify, was she talking about potentially changing it so that that we're not specifying that 2/3 of it go to the assistance program? Yeah, okay. I do think the bulk of it should go to that. So anyway.
Yeah, doesn't sound like it has legs tonight. So I just wanted to honor her request and mention that. What is the action for us here? Are there any other elements related to penalties that we would like to see? I don't see anybody raising their hand, and I'm quite comfortable with the penalty structure that we've already discussed. Jeff?
That's all I was going to say. I'm also comfortable with the penalties as we've outlined already.
Outstanding. Next slide.
Okay, moving right along. The Customer Assistant Program, or CAP. We are working closely with our utilities department, which just launched a study with Stantec in evaluating some options for customer assistant program. We intend to probably model a lot of the system for garbage collection, also to what they're doing similar with the utilities, so the water, sanitary, and stormwater. These programs are widely available across the country. How they're actually applied is where we'll see the rub. So our CAP program through the city of Inglewood that's currently looking at is actually looking at income-based versus age-based. And so you'll see over here, they have the medium income for the US, Colorado, and then Inglewood itself. We're just slightly below that amount there. And so Maria had suggested, and I actually watched the presentation as well. It's a really great presentation explaining how they looked into the customer assistant program and had a brief discussion with the city council. I was not able to get this link to work when I went through, but if you do go on to the city page and just look under the study sessions for January 4th, it's the first item on that video, and I think it's really worth a watch if you haven't watched it already. That really explains some of the details of the study that they performed and just the breakdown of how they determine these numbers and how that applies to the city of Inglewood. So for another example, Maria was able to find an example in Hillsborough County, Florida, where it was based off of the senior citizen discount for their trash bill. It does allow for 29% of a reduction. It didn't really state 100% like where those magic numbers came from their website, but this was an example to show you a variation of the type of program that could be instituted. They did have to pay for 100% of the collection costs for their services, but then they had a discount that was applied monthly on top of that. This link, I think this one worked when I had checked it, but as a precaution, we may just send you out an email of those links so you can have easier access to the information.
I'll just say the math on that slide, that discount looks a lot like the senior discount at Wendy's. It's like 10%.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was just a number that they applied there for that, so. So then what we were looking at when we're evaluating the CAP program was eligibility 2% or 200%, excuse me, of the poverty level based off of income, not off of the age-based system. We're recommending 10% of the monthly bill, which I'll go into more detail on this next slide. And the funding source for this kind of ties back to the previous conversation that you had about that member Brinker had brought up, is that the penalties are maybe a great way to fund this system, and then also voluntary contributions to the program. And we may have to require an initial contribution to be paid from the general fund to kind of kick things off. We cannot, however, just kind of apply a fee across the board for the program. So we can't rob Peter to pay Paul, as it were. So charging somebody a higher rate or a penalty, or charge them a rate to pay to fund the program. So applying that 2/3 of the penalty cost may be a good way to contribute to this overall fund. And then we'd like to follow a similar application process to what we apply through our utilities program. And then it would also appear on the monthly bill. Through the course of the Stantec investigation and utilities, there is a program through Arapahoe County that the CAP program could be administered through. They are well suited to help administer this fee at the county level, and then we at the city would have to apply a small administrative fee to Arapahoe County to maintain the program. So then moving on here, this next slide here is actually from the original RFP that we had from Public Service and Waste Management. Some of the proposals they had made, they didn't make a lot of sense to me. So we actually kind of moved forward with our own analysis here. And so I'll go ahead and show you that here. So looking at the estimated cost of the garbage or of the service would be $288. So a 10% reduction would be $28.80 over a year. And that would break down to a monthly cost of $2.40 if they applied for the program. This estimated households, again, comes back from that Stantec study. So in their study, they identified 2,900 potential households that would be eligible for the program. However, they do not anticipate that all households that would have the program available to them would actually apply for the program itself. We had put in 1,000 households just as an estimate to kind of give us a typical and then a more conservative worst case scenario to kind of see what that cost would be. And again, recommending that 10% reduction.
So let's pause here for a moment. Carson, your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just not clear on the administration through Arapahoe County program. I mean, do you have any sense of what that fee would be, and is that really not something that could be handled by the proposed employees that we're paying for?
I actually asked the same question. So if we were to administer it at the city itself, we would have to have an additional staff person to apply those applications and that material. So I don't know if it would be a full-time person or an additional part-time person, but that would not be included in the existing staff estimates that we've currently established. The Arapahoe County amount of that administration, I think we would need further information to be determined on the program before we could actually get that estimate of what that administration fee would be. But I think it's something that we would have to look into further.
Thank you.
Kanji.
Thanks. Yeah, Deputy Director, I had a question as far as, do we have an estimate amount of the possible income from those penalties that we would have to pay for this?
You know, from the penalties, I don't believe we have an actual estimation because it's kind of one of those things where you want to assume whatever hauler we select would do the right thing and not contribute or would have to pay penalties. So we don't actually have a value associated with that, which is why I think to start the initial program, we would have to fund it through the general fund or through donations.
That makes sense. And I just wanted to pressure test that, right? And let's say we had some extraordinary servicer that had no penalties whatsoever over 2 to 3 years, then would we continue to dip into the general fund?
I think that's a very good question. I think that's something that the city council would have to definitely weigh in on. But I think if we do end up having, I'm going to say, a dream hauler that gets no penalties, I think that's definitely an avenue that would have to be investigated, short of also maybe additional donations from, you know, a very charitable folks contributing to that fund.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
Felicia.
I don't know if it would go anywhere, but I'm just wondering if it might be worth asking when we interview the haulers next meeting, if they have any, like, would they provide any discount, or do they have some kind of criteria? If people met a certain threshold for income, would the hauler be willing to reduce their rate on their end if they knew there were X amount of households that would be paying the full rate? So I don't know. It could, again, not go anywhere. I'm just wondering if it might be worth bringing up when we meet with them. And also just to know, like, do they, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm ignorant in this piece, but do any of the current Inglewood providers have any programs for low-income families? I don't know.
Both of those questions were running through my mind as well. So thank you for those. Carson?
Yeah, thanks, Member Laib. I liked those too. I wondered also about some of the programs that Member Fraser had brought up, the grants, if possibly, if we could qualify in any of those grants, if some of that could go towards the assistance or not. Am I totally off on that, Member Fraser? Were the programs that you were recommending that we might be able to apply for, could that money potentially be used that way?
My understanding at least was it was intended for like education, direct support for waste reduction, but I'd have to take another look at the fine print of the grants. I do think if it could be applied, it could be a good use of the funds along with education here potentially.
Thank you.
And Felicia, I just want to check with you because your hand is still raised.
Yep, sorry.
So I guess the question I have in regards to providing this discount is, let's just assume that the hauler knocks it out of the park and we're not constantly dealing with fines. How do we pay for it? So that leads me to the conclusion. It wasn't intended to be a rhetorical question, but as I'm asking it, I'm thinking through it. If we're going to suggest that a program like this gets launched, we need to be prepared to ask council to dip into the general fund for the seed money to fund the program. And also to be prepared in future budget cycles to continue funding such a program.
Well, and maybe it's also an investigation kind of going along the lines of Vice Chair Green's ideas of, are there grants available in this kind of arena where we can fund that? Maybe not ones that we've identified right now, but things that we may have a future potential to go after. There is almost a grant for just about anything anymore. So maybe it just requires additional research to look into that. But I think you're correct, Chair Roy, that we probably need to look at a worst case scenario where we do have to approach the city council with funding it, at least for a period of time, assuming we have a dream hauler come on board.
And I would say the odds of private contribution to something like this are pretty low. I'm fairly certain that anyone who would potentially say donate a house or some real estate to Inglewood would want to have, I don't know, a senior center named after themselves rather than the city's trash program. So on that note, Kanji, you're next.
That was funny. Deputy Director, I was wondering if you could also add into your research, if we could get some benchmarking from other communities that are providing these services, just to kind of see what kind of penalties that or the funds that they're getting in from these other organizations or communities.
Can do. I'll definitely add that to my question as I'm going around and asking about the staffing. It's a perfect time. I'm already going to be calling them. So
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, sorry. I guess I'm just thinking through this and thinking if now is the right time before an RFP is issued for us to even nail this down. I do think some income-based discount is totally reasonable. I don't necessarily support just looking at age alone. I think income's a better metric for those who should be eligible for the program, whether they're, 30% of the median income or however you would categorize an income-based level need for assistance, and how you determine that. I would assume they'd produce, I don't know, documentation, a W-2 or something like that to qualify. But I think the more targeted it can be to those with actual income need versus just looking at, age alone. I think there are probably plenty of senior citizens who can afford the trash service. And overall, we're hoping to have a discount for everyone here. I hope the RFPs come back like that. So let's hope that's the case, because trash services are mandatory for everyone as it stands now. But I just think it should be as targeted as possible. But I totally also agree that we shouldn't be banking and hanging our hat just on penalties alone here, because I doubt we're going to have a perfect hauler who always gets it right, but we don't want to just plan on them being having frequent penalties assessed here.
Oh, is Chair Ward frozen?
Appears to be.
His image appears to be.
Okay. Maybe we'll give him just a second here.
He was just so blown away by that comment. He just needed a minute to respond.
Here, it looks like he's popping back in. Oh, it looks like he popped off. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see the hands here, and I'll just try to facilitate or unless Vice Chair Green, you'd like to facilitate till he's able to hop back on.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, I had my hand raised anyway. I was just gonna comment in support of what Member Fraser just said. I mean, and clarify that my understanding based on reading what eligibility is based on is it is currently based on income, not age, right?
Our current plan is for income, not age, but we did want to give you the option for feedback either way that the committee wanted to recommend.
Cool. Yeah, I agree that that is the right way to do it. Did anyone else have anything on this? Okay, you could continue then, Deputy Director.
Okay, so I believe our next item here is reviewing the questions that we'll have with the haulers at our next meeting here. So just bear with me 1 second here and I'll get our questions up. Okay, can you all see that? Okay. So these were a list of questions that originally came from the initial RFP that we collected, and then a couple of ideas that Maria had identified as well that we may want to ask them, the haulers, for our meeting on is it the 22nd or the 23rd? I don't have a calendar in front of me to identify. That we'll be meeting with the waste haulers. So I think tonight, going off of committee member Labe's questions, we should add that question if they currently have a low income discount that they currently offer, and if that's something that can be replicated if they do have an RFP, or if they submit an RFP or submit as part of the RFP for the city of Inglewood. So I do have that identified as a question that we should ask, but we have some here, and I'll just go ahead and read them off. And then if you have anything additionally to this, we can add those questions on here as well. So the intention is that I'll be sending out these questions this week to potential haulers, and then scheduling them in for 30-minute question answer sections at the next meeting. I'm hopeful that we'll get responses back from them so you guys can review them in advance of the meeting and maybe have follow-up questions. So we'll go ahead and start with, how many households do you currently serve in Inglewood? How do you handle households that have excess yard waste or bundled branches once in a while? Are these typical included in the monthly price of regular trash pickup, or do you levy a separate fee for each instance? Could limited pickup be cost effective? Could unlimited pickup be a cost effective option for the city to consider? What are some of the pros and cons of cons of pay as you throw program versus a uniform cart size program? How do these factors affect in your pricing structure? How do you service alley pickups? Would this pickup require a different vehicle than is used in pickup in streets? Would you consider an electric vehicles for your fleet? How could the city incentivize the use of electric vehicles? Would it be effective to consider pickup at apartment buildings and small businesses? Do you currently have a service to return containers for customers' garage or door in the case of a physically disabled resident? Or if so, would you charge a monthly fee service for that? We have a series of pricing questions, which include what has been your annual increase in average customer bills from 2016 to 2020? Do you currently offer any discounts for seniors? That's kind of in line with the question we were speaking about earlier. I might just modify this one to include lower income. What are some elements of what would make prices in Inglewood higher or lower than nearby cities such as Sheridan or Arvada? How should tipping fees be handled? Are you aware of any other cities with CAP programs? If so, which ones? What contract length, 5, 7, 10 years would you prefer and why? And then some questions regarding composting and green waste. How would you suggest structuring compost collection? Are there more efficient ways available for composting in the metro area? And then how would you suggest structuring disposal of branches and other yard waste on a regular basis other than seasonal green waste events? There are a couple questions here about recycling. Where do you currently take recyclable materials? Approximately how much recycling collected is disposed of or rejected due to contamination? Is there a market for plastics? What are some things the city could consider to improve recycling rates? Large item pickup question would be, how would you suggest structuring pickup disposal of large items such as furniture, mattresses, and etc.? And then customer service questions. What is your current and average, or your average and current maximum wait on hold by phone and waiting for an agent? How are these times measured and tracked? And do you or could you offer an online chat function? Will wait times be reduced for City of Inglewood residents if you are awarded the contract? So I'll go ahead and scroll up to the top here. And at this point, we're looking for any additional questions you would like added to this list for us to distribute to the haulers.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that little technical blip. Sometimes my laptop does not like this committee, so I'm back online now. Carson, thanks for holding the gavel. I hope the committee will allow me to go first on this. I see some hands raised, but I just have a couple of things to add. First of all, I assume the plan is to send these questions in writing ahead of the meeting, because this is a lot of content for the duration of the time that we have with the haulers on our schedule.
Yes, my intention is to send these questions out to the haulers today or Wednesday at the latest, and solicit written answers so that we can best use your time with them.
Awesome, thanks. And secondly, on the subject of fees, if you scroll down, there's a question about the how their fees go up. What has been your annual increase in average customer bills from 2016 to 2020? I want to make absolutely crystal clear that the answer to that question needs to include any surcharge or other type of fee that is added to the base price. I don't want to hear what your base price is, because your base price has probably been $25 for the last 5 years. But my bill just reached the 3-digit mark for a quarter because the fees went up. The base price hasn't changed. So total price is what we're looking for there. And if there's a way for us to clarify that, I want to know how much each customer is writing a check to the hauler for. All right, with that, Carson, you're first.
Thank you. What does unlimited pickup mean?
So unlimited pickup, my understanding is that they can have multiple pickups for like a large household or frequent pickups. So like if you have additional needs for more frequency. So instead of having like maybe multiple barrels, you'd have pickups more than once a week, perhaps.
This is something we're wondering about for this residential service, multiple pickups per week. I'm totally confused by that.
Yeah. And my understanding of it may be wrong, but maybe we can clarify that. And this is the question here: could unlimited pickup be a cost-effective option for the city? So yeah, I might just reword that one to be more clarifying, and have it be or maybe it would be, what are more cost-effective options for the city to consider? Don't necessarily identify it just specifically as unlimited pickup. Is that a good idea?
Can I just jump in really quick? I think we were discussing this when it was talking about multi-unit residences and commercial, I believe.
The unlimited.
Yeah, that's my recollection. Was it was because we were talking about how, like, you know, some of those really big complexes only have like 2 dumpsters, and so they actually picking up like 3 times a week. Same thing with commercial sort of stuff. Sometimes they need a larger option. So I think this came from that discussion, but you know, because we kind of skirted that option, I'm not sure that it's completely necessary for at least this current discussion. But if anybody
Yeah.
else has a recollection, please jump in.
Thanks, Member Borman. That makes sense. I agree. It doesn't seem like it fits in with everything else. But Deputy Director Lundquist, I have several questions that aren't represented on here that I would want to add. Do you want us to like spit those out now? Because I don't have them all formed yet, or should I submit those in email?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just emailing Brittany or myself the questions that you would like added, I'll go ahead and make sure that they get added to what we distribute to the haulers.
Okay.
And you know, with asking for this information in advance, I don't think we should have a limitation on the number of questions that we're asking them. But maybe when we have the more focused discussion, maybe know that we may not get verbal answers from every single hauler with the limited time that we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Kanji, you're
And if,
next.
So mine's customer service all the way at the bottom. I think we could add in here, because I know we had talked about gathering data points around the errors. So I don't know how best to word this, but getting some sort of question in there about their historical data on error rates for their customers, and then how they compensate for those errors.
great question.
Brenda?
Yeah, so I was kind of confused about the third question also. I thought we were talking about large item pickup. Could large item pickup, and somehow it was in those questions right there, because we do have, if I recall, that's one of our biggest concerns, is getting large item picked up at the house. Is that one of the questions? I'm looking at it, but does it really?
Yeah, I don't think it's really reflected in what we have here, but maybe it's creating another question similar to this one. Do you have a service to retrieve large item pickups and have that in that lower section? Do you think that that would address your question?
Well, we've asked them to itemize large items, if that in the RFP, I think, going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that can be a general question. And then my other concern is kind of what Steve raised, is that we want to do 30 minutes a piece for each presentation in one night for each hauler that responds to the RFP. Is that right?
That's the plan.
I think that's pretty tight, but considering that they may not be able to answer all our questions verbally, though. That will be true. They won't be able to probably present all of this, and we'll need to review it in a separate meeting. Unless the committee wants to consider doing one a night, I think we might think about that so we can spend more time with the hauler. Thoughts, anyone?
I would agree with you, Brenda. It's Marcy.
Thank you, Marcy.
Oh, I'm sorry. These are a lot of questions to answer in a half an hour.
Yeah, and then we're going to have to shut somebody down so the next guy can come on. I would prefer to have 2 separate nights and we are just talking about 2 haulers, aren't we? I don't know who all's been invited.
I was going to try to get multiple haulers. So obviously I'll ask Waste Management and then also Republic. I'm sorry, my brain is not helping me here. I think there was 2 other haulers that we were going to invite. So if the group is interested in maybe doing 2 nights and 1 hour per hauler, is that what you guys are wanting to see?
Honestly, I think that would work better. A half an hour is a really short amount of time, and I think there'll probably be quite a few questions. Let's check with the rest of the committee. Marcy, you're next.
Okay. I was just curious that one of those questions, I don't see it up there, but it has to do with composting. How do you suggest structuring compost waste? I thought that this committee had already decided that we would, if you wanted to do composting and put it out there, that we would be doing that on our own or going to another business. Am I right on that?
I believe the committee concluded that it was optional to add composting to the proposal response, but it wasn't going to be required by the hauler.
Okay, so that question would still be pertinent to what we want to know. Is that correct? I guess my thinking was that if you wanted to do composting, that would be great, but maybe by another company.
Both of us are correct. Yes.
Oh, both of us are correct. Okay, thank you, Chair Ward.
Another company would potentially be an option. There was a talk about issuing a separate bid for composting as well as allowing the responding companies to provide composting services in their proposals.
That's what I recall. Thank you for clarifying.
Anything else, Marcy?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Felicia, you're next.
Maybe I missed it, but are there questions in here to talk about the different bin sizes?
No, we didn't include that in these questions because that will be an item directly handled in the RFP. However, I can add a question.
Well, maybe it's not necessary if it's in the RFP. I just know we spent a lot of time on that previously. So
yeah,
I don't know, it might be worth it just to even throw something general like, is it cost effective to have bin sizes and various price ranges per household or for households to choose, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I will kind of wordsmith something and get a question regarding bins in there for their response.
Thank you. And I agree with having 1 night per hauler if that feels like a best use of our time, not to be rushed.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, I also agree. I think probably 1 night per hauler. There's so many details floating around here. And I do think this opportunity is really important for us to, just directly engage with haulers on, how can we make this work and be the as cheap as possible, but work for everyone, work for haulers, work for citizens. I think this is really our chance to do that. So at least an hour with each one, I think is reasonable. I really do want to get a lot of haulers. I think we need to invite them like ASAP, including Waste Connections, which is a big one that's operating that did not submit in the initial RFP. And I really hope that they will in this round. The discussion about composting, Chair Ward, that was how I understood it. It's not mandatory for a hauler to offer compost, and we'll also accept composting bids from compost only providers, which I know there are at least a couple of out there. The one question I had, and I guess I wanted to clarify, I thought we were going to send these questions to haulers and potentially get written responses, which I think That is, okay, good. That makes a ton of sense to me. So we're not just going through this. We don't want to overburden them, but at least them knowing the questions going into these discussions and hopefully providing some written responses will help us keep it efficient and get as much info on the table as possible. The one area I do think might be worth adding, and I can email this, is on education. Given that these haulers operate in so many different areas across the state, country, whatever, it might be worth asking, especially given the fact that we're looking at bringing a lot of new recyclers into the mix here, learning from them on their experience as to what sort of educational initiatives and campaigns have proved to increase the recycling rate or to lower the rejection rate, for instance. New recyclers probably, might not know to like wash out their things before they throw them in, which can contaminate a whole bin or a number of different items. And I think that's really, really important if one of our shared goals is waste reduction here, because education is going to have to go hand in hand with that. So I guess the question I'd propose adding would be something like, what educational campaigns have you seen success with when approaching new recyclers or something like that? I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Carson.
I agree with making the time with each hauler be longer, and it does make sense. I agree with the direction you guys are going on that. At least an hour with each hauler and separate events probably does make sense. And also, I think it's important to submit these questions, get written responses, and then that'll probably clear out a lot of these questions so they don't necessarily require discussion, and then we can focus the discussion on the ones that aren't clear that we want further detail on.
Awesome. That does potentially make scheduling a little more challenging, I think. But I believe we have consensus on the committee. If there's an objection to having these meetings occur over more than one night, you can go ahead and raise your hand, but I haven't heard anybody vocally object, and I believe I've heard the critical number agree that that's probably a good idea. And if there's a reason why that doesn't work for staff, I'd be willing to hear that for sure. But we want something that works well for everybody involved, and I really think taking more time at the haulers is probably our best option given the failure of the first two proposals.
Well, and if I can make a suggestion, perhaps what we do is we plan for your next meeting to be a meeting with two haulers. That would give us an hour with each one. And then maybe the following meeting would also be a hauler meeting where we'd have the opportunity for two additional haulers. I will go ahead and reach out to the various haulers this week and see if that seems amenable. If I, for some reason, find 6, I think 4 is the number that I had identified within my notes. But if for some reason I find a much larger group, I think we'll reach back out to you all and confirm that that's okay. But I'll go ahead and kind of mark out our next 2 meetings as hauler interviews.
That works well. I mean, if we have 2 haulers in the next night and we have additional questions remaining for the same haulers and no other haulers scheduled, there's no reason why we couldn't invite them back. So that, I think that would be good. Does anybody have anything additional to add on the subject of questions going to the haulers prior to meetings? I'm not seeing anything. So, Carson, go ahead.
I'm just going to state that I'm working on a list of additional questions that I'll send to you. Should I just send, who should I send it to?
If you can send them directly to me, that would be great, Carson. So
Okay.
it's just J Lundquist at englewoodgov.com. And I can also
Okay.
just shoot you an email, so you can just hit reply and submit any questions you have. I can send my email to, or I can actually email the whole group if that's helpful for anybody to send any additional questions. Would it be too much to request that we get all questions from you all by Wednesday morning at, like, say 9 a.m.? Or is that too much of a push?
That's not too much. I agree with
That's
that. We've been
fine
at
with
this
me.
for a while, so
Okay.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. Just one reminder, make sure you BCC the committee as opposed to copying everyone. We don't want to be exchanging emails with one another as a committee. So
Okay.
if you BCC that, make sure everybody replies to you and nobody else needs to see it.
Okay, that'll work.
Anything else?
I just have one thing. I believe that Janet just misspoke. It's jlundquist@inglewoodco.gov. Is
All
that
right.
correct, Janet?
Oh, you are right, Brittany. I'm sorry. I tell you, my brain turns to mush after about 7 o'clock. So
That's okay.
please.
I just wanted to make
Please
sure
forgive
everybody
me.
sends it to the right place.
Okay. Well, that's another reason it's good for me just to email.
We call that pumpkin time in my house. There's a certain time when my wife turns into a pumpkin, and that's why it's called pumpkin time. Anyway, does anyone have anything else to add? This would be a good time. I don't know, Janet, do you have anything left for us on this presentation?
Nope, that was all of my items.
All right, well, I guess that brings us to members' choice. So if you do have something that you would like to discuss under members' choice, you can go ahead and raise your hand now. I don't see any hands raised. Oh, Jeff, go ahead.
Sorry to ruin that for you. All I wanted to say is I'm very eager to get an RFP out and really, really hope we get a lot of and good submissions here. I hope haulers are not turned off by the initial rejection. I do think it was necessary. And I'm optimistic, but we'll see what the numbers say.
Thank you. I concur. I think, it hasn't always been easy on this committee. We've had some choppy sessions, but we've really trudged through the work pretty well. And I think we're at a pretty good point now. Not completely done, but we've accomplished a lot. So perhaps we've climbed to the top of Everest and we're on our way back down. With that, it's 7:40 p.m. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Steve.
Good job.
Night all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Early. All right. I like it. Have a good night all.
Bye.
We're getting off easy.